A few months back, I made this video talking about the most common Scrum myths that usually come up or brought up in my discussions with clients. I say myths because they usually come from either a partial or complete misunderstanding of a Scrum framework. We couldn't finish the whole list the last time I did this video, so today, let's try to finish it together. I'm going to give you my insights on these myths and some real-life examples on how to handle them. Myth number 1, velocity and value. The same thing. Velocity has a lot of importance when using the Scrum framework. Developers give a lot of importance to story point, estimations, velocity, the sprint planning. A lot of importance is given to these things. But generally, there's some specific roles in the Scrum team or around the Scrum teams that talk about velocity a lot. The Scrum Master, the Product Owner, stakeholders, directors, managers. And sometimes these people have a concept of velocity wrong. They think that velocity is value. They believe that a team that is performing well in terms of velocity, increasing every single sprint, doing 300 points, 400 points every single sprint, is a successful team. And when your team's velocity is decreasing every single sprint, you're not doing well. There must be a problem. Why are we not going faster? Why is velocity not increasing every single sprint? Why can't we do more? Are we sure that we are working at full capacity? I'm sure that you hear that a lot. These are anti-patterns by these people, stakeholders, product owners. And if your Scrum Master is telling you that, I'm sorry to tell you, but you could get a better Scrum Master. But don't get me wrong, velocity is extremely important, but it's not a productivity metric. It's a planning metric. It's used for planning to predict the future sprints. Extremely useful when doing sprint planning because we can use the average velocity of a team to know approximately how much work we can complete based on past data, based on experience in the next sprint. That's why we use velocity. But generally, stakeholders, managers, directors, upper management, they don't understand that. They believe that velocity is a measure of success, that the team needs to always be pushing in terms of efficiency, going faster, going faster. But what about value? When are we actually going to talk about value? When are we going to talk about effectiveness? Not only efficiency. Efficiency is doing something right, doing something faster, optimizing the process, the flow. Effectiveness is doing the right thing. People spend a lot of time optimizing efficiency. Like, how do we optimize the process? How can we go faster? How can we get the most from our people, from our resources? But we rarely talk about, are we actually doing the right thing? Are we focusing on valuable features that customers would love? Or are we making features just for the sake of making features? We are building features that will make stakeholders, upper management people get some bonuses. We don't really care about the customer. If that's the case for your organization, take a step back, make them realize that value is the most important thing. Efficiency is never more important than effectiveness. And start talking about effectiveness in your organization. You can start with your Scrum team first, especially your product owner. Myth number 2, Scrum projects are faster and cheaper. Yeah, this is true, but only if you're using the Scrum framework in the right environment. Let me give you a simple example. Maybe your team, your Scrum team, is working on a mobile application. They don't know what the customer wants. They don't assume what the customer wants. They study the market. They do user testing based on prototyping. And we come up with a list of features that we believe the customer would want. And we start building the features. And once the features hit production, customers start using the features. We get feedback from these customers. Positive feedback, negative feedback. And we improve these features, or we build other features to complement the existing features. Continuous increments, continuous updates to the application. That's a beautiful way to use the Scrum framework and agility. But if you're using Scrum for support teams that are only responding to tickets, solving problems, my laptop isn't working, my mouse isn't working, I need someone to fix it. Support teams, Scrum doesn't work for them. Because to satisfy your customer, you need to rapidly resolve their issue while still providing quality. Yeah, you can use agile principles doing that, but using the Scrum framework every single sprint, how can you build an increment every single sprint? It wouldn't work. The agile principles would work. The agile values would work, especially the first agile principle. Our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. Early and continuous delivery of valuable software. This early part confuses a lot of people. That's where I believe the myth faster comes from. When people see early, they believe the author of the Agile Manifesto, the one who wrote this Agile principle, was talking about going faster. No, we weren't talking about going faster. We're talking about releasing early. The easiest way to understand that is the old waterfall model that everyone was using previously. You know, the one where we gather all the requirements for months, even years. And then we do a huge planning Gantt chart, waterfall model planning, dependencies one after the other. And then we start building a project which might be released in a few months or even years. Big bang approach, everything is released all together. The big problem with that is if we don't know what the customer wants, this type of project doesn't work, because we're taking years to build something assuming that the customer wants this when they might not even want that. That's why with agility, when we don't know what the customer wants, it's better to release early, small increments, not a big bang approach. Small features, get feedback, improve the features, build something new, get feedback, improve the features. That's what agility is all about. The waterfall model works extremely well for projects where you know exactly what to do. You know the requirements are very clear, nothing changes, you know exactly what the customer wants. You can use the waterfall model. But for the rest, in a complex world, complex environment, complex customers, agility works the best. Myth number 3. During the sprint review, the developers present what was done during the sprint to the product owner, and the product owner can accept or decline what was built by the developers. There seems to be this romantic idea that during the sprint, once the sprint starts, the developers work on creative solutions, build these solutions, and then present these solutions to the product owner during the sprint review. You can't be more wrong about that. It needs to be the complete opposite. The mindset that we should have during the sprint is shift left, fail fast. The earlier we present something to a product owner, the better. We shouldn't be working in isolations like developers work in silos building these creative solutions. No, we should be talking every single day in the daily scrum. How can we progress towards meeting the sprint goal? If you use a Kanban board, a Scrum board, there needs to be a specific column for the product owner to review what was done for the developers. And this review needs to be done instantly once the developers have already completed the development or completed the testing. Everything needs to be done together. We shouldn't be developing things for a few days and then checking with the product owner. No, everything back and forth between the product owner, between the developer. If you have a QA person, with a QA person also. Continuous, constant communication and collaboration between all these roles. It's a single Scrum team. It's not the developers and then the product owner. The developers do the work and then the product owner accepts it. No, everyone is working together to accomplish a sprint goal, a common sprint goal. And if we wait for the end of a sprint for the product owner to review what was built, it increases the chance of us building something that the product owner doesn't want and realizing at the end of a sprint. What do we do then? We just cancel the sprint and start all over. If we knew that in the beginning of the sprint, it would be better. And still, I'm talking within the sprint, building everything and then validating with a product owner at the end of a sprint. Remember what the myth was. The developers present during the sprint review. Just imagine, you are a product owner in the sprint review with the stakeholders, managers, directors, maybe even customers. You're just seeing right now what the developers built during the sprint. And now you'll say if you accept it or not. No way. Everything that is presented in the sprint review needs to have been reviewed prior to the sprint review by the Scrum team. Everyone needs to be on the same page in the Scrum team, and it's a team effort to present in the sprint review. Myth number 4, only the product owner can talk with the stakeholders. There's this common myth that the developers need to be completely shielded from the outside world. This is something that's usually done by the Scrum Master or even the product owner. Only the product owner can talk to stakeholders, managers, customers. This shouldn't be the case. When using Scrum, we are doing a process of collaborative discovery, working together to build a beautiful feature, something that the customer would love using. And you can't do that alone as a product owner. everyone needs to be involved. And if everyone needs to be involved, the developers need to also be talking to the customer or have some way to get feedback from the customers. Obviously, we're not talking about stakeholders in the organization, managers, directors, continuously giving work directly to developers. Hey, do that. Check this for me. No, obviously, this is an impediment. A distraction for the team. It shouldn't be the case. The team needs to be shielded. But during the creative process, the discovery process, when we're building, if the developers need information from the customers or even stakeholders in terms of roadmap priority, they need to be able to talk. There's nothing wrong with that. Myth number 5, in Scrum, when using the Scrum framework, maybe even agility, there's no planning. Come on. There's an event called the sprint planning when using Scrum. Every single sprint, if you're using 2-week sprints, very common 2-week sprints, you're planning every 2 weeks. Who does that? Planning every 2 weeks. Do you plan your personal life every 2 weeks? Exactly with goals and all that? Not many people do that. And when using the Scrum framework, you need to do that. Plan every single sprint. And the beautiful part is that planning is done every single day also when using the Scrum framework. A daily Scrum. What's the goal of a daily Scrum? Many people wrongly believe, that the daily Scrum is a status meeting. We are here as developers to give status to the Scrum Master or the product owner or other stakeholders that are joining the daily Scrum. It's not a status meeting. It's a meeting for the developers by the developers so that they can plan their day together. Answering the single question, how can we work together to progress towards the sprint goal today? Yeah. Planning every single day. And the next day, we should be reflecting on how we did the previous day. In terms of progressing towards the sprint goal, maybe we had a plan for the day on how to collaborate together. So the next day, try to reflect. Did it go well on the previous day? Were we able to collaborate together? Were we able to progress towards the sprint goal? If not, what should we do differently today? That's what planning is all about, and it's done every single day when using Scrum. I really am very confused when I hear this myth that Scrum, there's no planning in Scrum. Agile teams, they just do what they want. There's no planning. They just go with the flow. Doesn't make any sense. Planning every single day. Who does that? There's a lot of planning when using the Scrum framework, which brings me to my next point. If you want more tips, insights on Agile Scrum personal growth, click on the video that stands out the most on the screen right now, and I'll see you in a few seconds.